Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever just felt stuck? Totally paralyzed by the future, with absolutely no idea which way to turn? Today, we are diving into this powerful idea from our source material about how to find what it calls a living hope when you don't have a map. So let's just start with a question I think we've all faced at some point. Maybe it's in your career, your relationships, or some other huge life decision. What do you do when the next steps are a complete and total mystery? You're standing at a crossroads and there's no map, no GPS, not even a gut feeling pointing you in the right direction. What happens then? Well, today's source material offers a pretty radical answer. It basically argues that the guidance we're looking for, it's not always a 10-point plan or some detailed roadmap. Sometimes an entire life can pivot on just a single, powerful sentence, a call to just move, and that changes everything. To really wrap our heads around this, we're actually going to go back about 4,000 years to a story from the book of Genesis. It's about a man named Abram, and honestly, his story is basically a masterclass in how to navigate profound, gut-wrenching uncertainty. So the story kicks off when Abram gets this direct and, frankly, life-shattering command. And this was not a gentle suggestion, okay? This was a call to completely upend his entire world. First, he's told to leave his country. Just stop and think about that for a second. That means leaving your culture, your national identity, your home turf, literally everything that makes up your world. And if that wasn't a big enough ask, he's also told to leave his relatives. In his world, that's your entire social safety net. It's your support system, your history. It is an incredibly isolating command. And here is the real kicker. The destination was a complete unknown. There was no map, no coordinates, no glossy travel brochure telling him what to expect. He was simply told to go to the land I will show you. Talk about a leap of faith, right? And his response is just incredible. There's no hesitation, no bargaining, no asking for more details. The text just says, "So Abram went." It's this immediate act of trust in the face of absolute, total uncertainty that really sets the stage for everything that follows. So the huge question is why? Why would anyone do this? What could possibly motivate a person to trade everything they know and love for a future that is a complete blank? Well, the source material argues it wasn't about a plan. It was about something way more powerful. You see, Abram's journey kicks off what the devotional calls a pilgrim life. And this isn't just about travel. It's an entirely different mindset. A life that's not defined by a map you can see and follow, but by trusting in a promise that you've heard. What's really cool is how this breaks down these two different approaches. On the one hand, you've got life with a map. That's all about visible certainty, right? A clear route, knowing the endpoint. But on the other hand, you have life with a promise. And that approach rests entirely on the character of the one who made that promise. And this brings us to a really crucial point from the devotional. Identity comes before activity. Just think about that. Abram didn't start walking to try and earn the promise. No, he started walking because the promise had already been given to him. His new identity as someone who was called came first, and his actions just flowed out of that new reality. Okay, so let's get practical. If you don't have a map, how do you even mark your progress? How do you stay oriented when you're literally and figuratively traveling through these unsettled, unknown places? Well, the text shows us that Abram had this specific practice. As he was journeying through this totally new land, he repeatedly built altars. And these weren't just random piles of rocks, they were really intentional acts of worship, basically marking his path with his trust in God. So these altars were these physical signs of his internal posture. He was moving through an unsettled world by leaning on what the devotional calls the settled word of God. It's this perfect picture of what living hope looks like. It doesn't need a visible destination because it's resting on the unchanging character of the one who called him in the first place. So, how in the world does this 4,000-year-old story apply to us today? Come on, we live in a world that is obsessed with 5-year plans and productivity hacks and optimized routes for everything. This is where the devotional's insight becomes so incredibly relevant. The source material boils this entire principle down into one simple but really powerful confession we can use. In any area of our life where the future just feels like a fog, we have a choice. We can either fixate on the map we don't have, or we can anchor ourselves to the belief that the promise is stronger.
And that brings us to the final, crucial question this devotional leaves us with. So think about it. In the uncertain, unmapped, unsettled parts of your own life right now, what is the promise that can prove stronger than the map you wish you had?